Hey guys, it's me, Zimzilla, and today what I'm going to be talking about, I wouldn't say a very controversial video, but it's definitely not something that most people would talk about a lot. And this came to my attention, and I wanted to do this video after watching a few videos that went on two different people's channels. One from a YouTuber by the name of Chansamy, and another by the name of Gojira54. Now, Gojira54 had made a video discussing and looking at and analyzing the Godzilla 2016 or Shin Gojira trailer, and he offered his dislikes. Jansme did a video, and then Gojira54 did some more videos, and he did some videos which are talking about why Gojira Resurgence or Godzilla Resurgence will suck, and Godzilla Resurgence rant defending what I've said, and then other videos having to do with Godzilla Resurgence. And I'm not really involved when it comes to communities. Like, when forums, I usually stick to Toho Kingdom, and I don't really post too much in Toho Kingdom. I've been trying to look at some forums and, like, discussion groups on Google+, but I'm not really, like, frequent those either. So, like, I'm not really involved with other people, and I was thinking, like, maybe this G-Fest would be the moment to really talk to some more people now that I'm doing YouTube. I can talk to other YouTubers and be like, hey, how's it going, and hang out and such. And I know both of these two people did G-Fest announcements similar to what I did, so I'm aware of that. And these two, as well as the people who have taken the sides to these two, I wouldn't say they're like the heads of these arguments, but they bring up points on both sides, which I want to address. And I think this is what's kind of not really sparked controversy, but it's just struck like my opinion, because I was always thinking about doing this video when it came to Godzilla 2014 and its effect on the Godzilla community, as well as how Pacific Rim also affected the Kaiju community in a way. So I'm going to go into the points that he made on his various videos, and then I'm going to give my opinions on those. And most of the other rants on Gojira54 were mostly talking about how, like, he contradicted himself and such like that, but I'm really gonna, like, not in a demeaning way and not in, like, a douchebag way, just gonna say my opinions on what he said and give my own opinions as well, and that's gonna be the video. So let's begin. Obviously, he's done a lot of opinions on Resurgence, and one of the points he said that the 2016 Godzilla is not scary. I semi-agree with this. Like, the design is definitely interesting, and it's a really cool design, but from the shots that we've seen and how they're portraying Godzilla, it's very fan service, and I like it. Like, the fan in me is like, oh my gosh, it's Godzilla. He's right there. We can see him, and Godzilla's not hidden from us. But I think, like, we know what's there, and, like, I mean, if I was in that situation, seeing a giant monster that looks like that would be scary, but, like, how it's presented to a viewer, it's not presented in a, like, scary fashion. Like, 2014, I don't think is a scary Godzilla either. Like, I'd say what we got wasn't scary, what we could have gotten wasn't really that scary, and I think that's mostly based on 2014's design, in my opinion. So if Resurgence was put in 2014's position with its trailers, it would be definitely a scary Godzilla, so I semi-agree on that. Another point he made was 2016 was half-assed. I disagree. I'd say my whole argument with it not being that is because Toho being Toho, obviously they don't always have the best track record. Like, some of the mid-Showa films aren't the best examples of their work. However, when it came to the Millennium films, later some of the Heisei films, they really want to please the fans, like those Toho fans and the people who really love Godzilla for Godzilla. And what they're doing is really ham-fisting that fan service. I'm like, you guys want Godzilla? You want a throwback? Well, here you go. And we'll just put a little spin on it. So that's my opinion on that. I really don't think 2016's half-assed in that regard. Like, it's not a bad stance to have. I just don't see it like that. Another point he made was the idea of CGI versus suits. And he says that Resurgence has 10-year-old CGI. I disagree on that regard because other films, like films and video games of that time of like 2006, because obviously we're in 2016 now, like Pan's Labyrinth, for example, had amazing suit work and amazing CGI, and I've watched it recently, and I believe it still holds up to this day. So I like, and also even for the majority of things that came out in 2006, it doesn't really feel like it has that kind of that level of CGI in my opinion. Like, I'd say it brings on that appearance mainly in my opinion because of how little Godzilla's moving. Because of course it's a guy in a suit, but we've seen Godzilla move way faster than this, and obviously done more while just destroying buildings and such. And destroying buildings leads me on to my next point, which is Godzilla tropes. And like he talked about different Godzilla tropes and Toho Godzilla things, and I disagree with that. And what I want to bring up is aimless destruction. And I mean, Godzilla's never done aimless destruction just for the sake of, hey, let's put a monster in and destroy things, because I think we all need to remember that no matter what, Godzilla at like what Godzilla is obviously always will be a metaphor for the atomic bomb and the atomic destruction and what happened to the Japanese people. So every Godzilla movie I've watched, whether it's campy or serious, I've never felt that Godzilla's destruction was never aimless, because it was always directed at Japan. It was always done to represent what happened on those days when we dropped the bombs. And thinking of, I want to talk about CGI again for a moment. I don't believe CGI is a be-all, end-all. I really like practical effects, and I think CGI with practical effects enhanced is a much better alternative, because Jurassic Park, all Jurassic Park movies, like, that includes Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3, beautiful CGI, and their animatronics, as well as some of their close-ups and stuff, those practical effects, really sold the dinosaurs for me, in my opinion, and it really made it feel like those were real. So, I don't believe that CGI should be used primarily. I believe it should be used as an enhancer, because I feel like CGI is something that you can get like really, really dependent on, and it can lead to like movies not being as good in my opinion, because hey, you can do CGI, that can fix it all. And I think Living Corpse put it best, is that like again, CGI is not the be all end all, and that practical effects still have a use today. And moving on, I think another controversial thing he had is his love for 2014, and how, I wouldn't say his disdain, but he doesn't really hold a lot of the Toho films to the standard that other fans do in such high regard. And one thing he stated was that 2014 innovated, and a few things he said was conspiracy, the nuke scene, like how that whole subplot happened, new kaiju, new Godzilla backstory, and interesting characters. I'm gonna have to disagree on that. Like, I personally, while watching the movie, I enjoyed it. Like, I like 2014. I like all Godzilla movies, but I really wasn't invested too much with 2014's characters besides Bryan Cranston, and obviously he died really early on in the film. But with Conspiracy, Mechagodzilla 2, like Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, had the conspiracy as no one knew the government was keeping Mecha King Ghidorah there, and I'd say that subplot was more of a focus in the manga version of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, and in Kiryu, the people didn't really fully know that Godzilla 1954's the bones of the 1954 Godzilla were attached and were inside Mechagodzilla 3. So we really didn't know, they didn't know that. And then with Biollante, obviously, the conspiracy of using Godzilla cells for different uses, like military purposes, and then in the scientist's case, his wife, and obviously having her soul mixed with the Godzilla cells, and obviously the plant, which obviously spawns Biollante. The nuke scene, it's not really that big of an interesting or innovative subplot, because 2000 had something similar with the bombs, the special bombs that they had in the one building below the Millennium spaceship, which they tried to blow off, but then they said, oh, there's still someone stuck inside the building, so then it was like kind of the thing to try to get him out of the building, then they blew up the thing, and then they were like, oh, he's dead and stuff. So, like, obviously the same thing happened. They don't set it off yet. There's like a big struggle, like whether like blow up the bomb here or not, or move it, stuff like that. It's very similar. And Megagearus had something similar in my opinion with Dimension Tide. And obviously with luring Godzilla outside of highly populated areas to fire it. And then new Kaiju, like, if we don't count the Showa era, Heisei obviously had new Kaiju with Chakras and then ending with Destroya. Obviously, the Heisei series didn't have all new original Kaiju, but it did have new Kaiju before 2014 did. Obviously, the Millennium series had Orga, and it also had Monster X / Kaiser Ghidorah. Monster X I put separately, just Monster X and Orga being new monsters. So I would say that's really that innovative. However, I do like the Muta's design. And if anyone's read Godzilla Awakening Shidomura, as well as any of the monsters that you want to consider canon as part of like expansions, like monsters that we didn't see, like Vishnu and stuff. And interesting characters, again, Brody, like I think that was his name, Brody from 2014. I mean, he's a soldier. Like, I like when you follow a soldier in a story. However, his acting wasn't bad. It's just what he was given by Gareth Edwards wasn't the best thing in the world. And I have nothing against Gareth Edwards, and again, nothing at all, but I'd say that he wasn't that, like, his story and subplot wasn't interesting. His dad's subplot was interesting, but that kind of ended near the first act of the film. And I think in terms of interesting characters that were from the Godzilla movies, just to name one, Akane from the first Kiryu movie, Godzilla Gets Back Godzilla, her character arc spanned the entire film, and she was a dynamic character. Like, she went from a Maser tank operator who was fighting Godzilla and then became a shut-in because of what happened in her mistakes, and that haunted her. And obviously, people remembered it like Hayata, or not Hayata, not Kiba. I forget his name now. Sorry, but the one guy who kept reminding her that she had killed his brother. So he obviously changed the dynamic for her, and then he changes his mind as well. So his character evolved too, from being this guy who held a grudge against her to a person who put the mission of destroying Godzilla above his own vendetta against her, and told her to fire the Maser cannon, or not the Maser cannon, the Absolute Zero cannon, to kill Godzilla, even though it would have killed him as well. However, she overcame her own fears to not only save him, but also to drag Godzilla into the ocean. And in terms of interesting characters overall, like Godzilla's characterization as a whole, Godzilla in all the Showa movies, all the Heisei films, and even the Millennium films, he's always had more of a character than 2014. I was like, 2014 is obviously like a defender and a like force of nature, but even in other films where Godzilla is a force of nature, like in Godzilla 2000, he had more motivation and character than he did in this instance. And like, I think like certain shots really display that, like scenes of Godzilla again destroying buildings and terrorizing Tokyo because he's obviously a symbol, but he also had other meanings to him as well besides from being just that symbol. Another controversy that was brought up is what he said about movies that are good, and he said that the only Godzilla movies that were standable or watchable by normal people were the original, Godzilla vs. Mothra, the original, Godzilla 84, Biollante, Mechagodzilla 2, Destroya, 2000, GMK, and that was about it. And he said Final Wars somewhat, but I'm not going to include Final Wars, but I also bring up Megagearus is a pretty decent film, and I'm saying this for people who aren't Kaiju fans and people who just going to watch movies. Like, Megagearus is decent. The first Mechagodzilla, not Terror of Mechagodzilla, Mechagodzilla versus Mechagodzilla, the original, decent. Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, extremely decent. Battle for Earth isn't as decent for like a normal moviegoer, but King Ghidorah especially. And then both Kiryu movies, like, I'm surprised he did not put both of the Kiryu films there, because those are really good films. for people who are just gonna start getting into the kaiju scene. Now, I want to talk also about his opinions where he said that looking at G movies as a moviegoer, I'd say I semi agree with that. And again, they're movies, so we shouldn't look at them differently. But I think like that also goes into the marketing and what we as fans want, because a lot of fans like fan service, and I think Toho has been marketing their movies more closely to fans. Like, I'd say when it came to GMK, the Kiryu trilogy, and Final Wars especially, they were really heavy with fan service. Like GMK, they brought back King Ghidorah for Godzilla to fight, and they made Godzilla this awesome force of destruction that took on 3 monsters and killed all of them. And the Kiryu movies, they brought back an upgraded, newer design to Mechagodzilla with bringing back the fan service of having 54 his bones being inside Kiryu. And then Final Wars, like, I really don't have to say anything about Final Wars. And, like, Final Wars is such an awesome film, though. I love that film. And another thing you mentioned was previous box sales. I semi-agree with this, however, I don't fully, because Godzilla 2084 bombed, and I put that in air quotes, at the box office because, I mean, 84 had a large-scale release, and so did 2000, but, again, 84, I think, had better box sales than 2000, and 2000 was more of a revitalization because of what America did with 89, so really, 2000 was a result of Retaliation, and I don't have anything against the 89 film, or 98 film, my mistake, because that obviously spawned the Millennium series, and without that, we wouldn't have had some of my favorite Godzilla movies. So, I really don't see why 2000's box sales are that big of an issue, because really, it wasn't made for like the mass media. It was made for people who wanted to see Godzilla movies and wanted to see a true Godzilla movie, because a lot of people were disappointed by 98. And I think 2014 and the steps it took to make sure it was a good movie are out of result for what happened with the 98 film. And they didn't want to make the same mistakes again. So that's my opinion when it comes to the box sales. And then another controversial thing you brought up was outsourcing. I don't have a problem with outsourcing. I semi-agree, semi-disagree with this because, again, it's very fan service driven. Toho wants to do it's kind of Toho's own thing and let them do as is. So this film, like I've been saying probably 1,000 times now, is being made for Godzilla fans and not for everyday moviegoers. And I mean, it shows, like, everyone who's sort of, like, a Godzilla fan is really hyped to see this movie. But I mean, like, other people who just sort of watch Godzilla movies here and there, like, people, like, I saw some people, like, in his comments giving this guy flack for his 2016 trailer analysis. I mean, look at Real Talk W / like this person. That's how the username is. If you look at his analysis of Godzilla, it's way worse and way more offensive to G fans, in my opinion. So no one should be giving this person flack for like saying, I mean, like, it's like he's not dissing it, and he's not saying it's bad. He's just not as, like, excited for it as everyone else is, because, again, he's looking through it more of the eyes of just a general moviegoer and wants to see it be more successful to the general masses, similar to 2014 as well as Pacific Rim. And I'd say the outsourcing, obviously, bringing out someone in Hollywood would be good for the general masses, but it wouldn't really, in my opinion, have the heart and soul that Toho does when it puts stuff into movies. Like, I wouldn't want it to be outsourced because I'd want to see what Toho does, and I really think that they can make a good film with their director, with Anno, as well as a composer, suit designer, actors, as well as characters. I really think they can pull this off on their own in this case. And that leads into another topic when he talks about Japanese and American culture not being different. Like, I'd say marketing-wise, in terms of business is business no matter where you go. But in terms of culturally, how Japan and America are, like, Japan is a much more xenophobic country, and most of their media is much more shut off than people would assume. And because of that, how they do film industry and how America does film industry is much different. Like when it comes to Japanese films, they aren't really that type where they do the Hollywood sort of dark, gloomy. They don't show you what it is they're gonna do. With Japan, they sort of show it out there. Like they're like, here's what it is. Here's what you'll see. Nothing too big, but here's what you'll expect. Like 10 Cloverfield Lane is probably the biggest example when it comes to Hollywood or American style film trailers and marketing. When I went to see that, I was expecting a sequel to Cloverfield, and what I got was something that could loosely be tied with a lot of theories and a lot of theories built on theories, which, again, weren't always super plausible and didn't always make a lot of sense. So, again, I disagree with the fact that their cultures are not different. They're definitely very different how they approach film and the film industry. But I'd say like marketing, like business, very similar. However, at their core, the people behind this are much different than many would lead on. Another thing he said was never seen Godzilla stuff in general stores. I disagree on that because I don't know how old he is. Like, I'd say he's around the same age as me, I'd assume. And I remember seeing Series 1 and 2 of the Bandai Creations Godzilla figures at KB Toys, Toys R Us, Newberry Comics, which also sold Ultra Monsters too, which is where I got a few of my Ultraman monsters from, as well as Target and Walmart. Like, when I was younger, I saw Godzilla figures a lot. I never picked them up until I really got into it, and I saw, of all movies, I saw Godzilla's Revenge. Yes, Godzilla's Revenge is the first Godzilla movie I ever saw, which I bought from Walmart. And that's sort of what got me into Godzilla, and then I started seeing, like, I more got into Godzilla and started buying stuff, so I don't think maybe it was as wide scale, maybe, but it definitely was there. I always saw stuff that was Godzilla related whenever I went to places. And I'd say one of the last few things I want to talk about is where he said that making 2014 the benchmark. I have no problem with this because when it comes to these next few films, when it comes to Hollywood Godzilla, 2014 is definitely the benchmark. Like, I would want to see more monster action. I would want to see more developed human cast as well as more developed technology so we could see them facing like a much more plausible ally or distraction or stop to Godzilla if he's moving somewhere. Like, the military should be involved a little bit more like it's a Godzilla movie. And in that regard, I'd say for the next few Hollywood movies, definitely 2014 should be the benchmark. In my opinion, overall, when it comes to the Godzilla anthology, in my opinion, if you want to call it that, 2014, it's not the benchmark for me when it comes to a Godzilla film. Story-wise, the original Godzilla will be the benchmark for story, in my opinion. When it comes to action, Final Wars, the Kiryu movies are, in my opinion, the movies that stand as a benchmark for action. And when it comes to effects, in a Kaiju movie, actually, a Godzilla movie is not the movie I'd say is the benchmark for effects. To me, it'd be Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris would be my benchmark when it comes to effects in a Kaiju movie. And that would be the one movie I would tell people to watch first. If I ever had to convert someone to be a Kaiju fan, that would be the first movie I'd make them watch. Because that movie had okay story, not as good as the original, but it's decent. And it is very complex for a Kaiju movie, which is really good for a normal moviegoer. Its effects, again, it's top-notch. I'd probably say the benchmark for all future movies. And in terms of action, it was very on par with that of the Heisei Godzilla films in terms of action with hand-to-hand combat. However, the gravity and weight behind the actions and fighting was very large and very impactful. So I'd say that is what I'd have to say when it comes to setting benchmarks for anything. 2014, I'd say effects-wise, maybe for an American film, it's a very good benchmark for future American kaiju films like that and Pacific Rim. But in terms of Japanese films, which are more tokusatsu-based and have more of a reliance on suits rather than CGI, I'd say that'd be the benchmark. Another movie that's actually going to be a G-Fest, which I'm going to ask my opinions to this guy if I get to meet him, is Ultra Galaxy Legends, or Daikachu Battle, Mega Monster Battle, Ultra Galaxy Legends, that long title of a movie. That movie combines suits with CGI, in my opinion, very seamless in most cases. So I want to ask his opinions on that, because I'd say that's another good example of combining CGI and suits. However, not in a realistic fashion, because that still goes to Gamer 3, but it's a very good example of that. And another thing, one of my last few things, actually probably the second to last thing, is the use of Toho fanboys and legendary haters. I like, definitely there are legendary fanboys and there are Toho fanboys. That much is certain. The whole argument in this case starts to boil down similar to like the opinions of Halo 5 in comparison to all the other Halos that came before us. So you could consider Toho and Toho fanboys to be the people who loved Halo 2 or Halo 3. In my opinion, let's just say Halo 2. And then this guy's opinions to be more Halo 5 based, because he said something that was very similar to what I heard in another video about Halo 5, which was he said that Godzilla needs to evolve and needs to keep up with the rest of media, or else it's gonna like become stale and it's gonna fall back, and people aren't gonna have anything left but the old films and the legendary films that keep coming out. And that's very similar to what a lot of people talk about when it comes to 343 fans talking to Bungie fans, who always say, oh, Halo needs to evolve, Halo needs to change so that it can stay on the top of the market. And of course, Godzilla 2014 had a much better reception, in my opinion, than Halo 5 did to Halo fans. However, like a lot of classic Halo fans say, Halo had this very good, balanced gameplay. It had this heart and soul, and it had a formula that worked, and it was top of the market. And when it came to Godzilla, I mean, Godzilla wasn't always the top of the market for movies, but when it came to kaiju and giant monsters, or the word monster or giant in general, I mean, back then, who was the monster you'd always say, like, anyone would remember? Godzilla. I mean, it was like the 90s that really cemented Godzilla as this cultural icon that appears in so many cameos, is mentioned often. The term Zilla is used in so many things. That's not even funny. And the dichotomy between these fans is that we both want the same thing. We want more Godzilla, but I'd say our opinions differ so much that it leads to this bitter rage and disdain for each other that it clouds people's judgment and like want and will to really see the other person's sides. Like, both sides have valid points, and again, at the center, we all want Godzilla. And I was gonna say this because both the people whose videos I watched, which brought me in, I found out about this debate / war, whatever you want to call it, drama. Both of them are gonna be going to G-Fest, and like, I don't know if there's any animosity between them now, or any of the people that have been bothering Gojira 54's channel. And if there's any group of people or fans that I never want to start drama with or have ill will towards, it's Godzilla fans, because I love this series more than anything else that I'm a fan of. Like, I love anime, I love video games, and when it comes to video game franchises, Halo and the Elder Scrolls are probably the two biggest franchises when it comes to mind that I'm a fan of. And I've had a lot of drama with other Halo fans, and even my own friends. We always have arguments about Halo, but any animosity I have towards other G fans, or other Kaiju fans in general, I never want to have, because I love this franchise so much. I don't want drama. And another thing, this is the last thing. A lot of people I saw in his comments later on some of his later Godzilla videos had to do with people saying, oh, not a true fan, or oh, something fan, something this, or true's this and true that. Like, the definition of a true fan or true anything in this type of medium, it never can exist. It can't exist. Like, you can never be a true fan of something. Like, if you blindly liked something and said it was the best thing ever, then you'd be a fanboy. Because I love Godzilla, I love all of it, but I would never say that it's a flawless masterpiece. Like, we all can agree to that, but there's a lot of good in it. And I think that what we need to do is that, I remember another thing is Gojira, Goji Fan 93, he had done a video talking about elitism in the community and how it would become like the Sonic fan base. And I've watched tons of rants on Sonic fans, and really, I mean, like, most of us are younger people and some of us are older people, and I don't want to see this fandom be reduced to something similar to what we have to see in the Sonic fandom, where we have to have people ranting on other people day in and day out. Like, ranting is good and stuff, like, it does help the community if we see people like that, but this type of elitism, when both sides have valid arguments and don't want to cause any ill will but just want to express their opinions and may not have the exact same opinion as you but still want the same thing, and people bash each other for it, that's when we have a problem. Like, not everyone's always right, and I'd say there's always a middle ground, but just again, all this elitism really needs to stop. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Like, this is to Gojira 54, sorry. I just really wanted to do this video. I wanted to talk about your points, and I think that I want to have a logical, not exactly debate, but conversation with you about your opinions, because I don't think, for what I've seen of videos, people have really given you that benefit of the doubt when it comes to your opinions and what you want. And I think a lot of people have just labeled you something and put you in a box. And I don't want that. I always want logical conversations with G fans, as well as obviously gushing about Godzilla, because all us G fans want that. But I really hope you see this video, and if you want to talk more about the issue in terms of your opinions, I'd love to hear them, because obviously talking about Godzilla is one of the things I love, which is why I always wanted to do these opinions-based videos on my channel. So that's all, guys.